One evening, a person named Tom decided to take a walk through his quiet neighborhood. It was nearing twilight, and the shadows of street lamps stretched across the wet asphalt from the recent rain. The streets were nearly empty, with only the occasional rustle of fallen leaves breaking through the silence. Tom usually felt safe in this tranquil area, but today, as he turned a corner and saw a dark shadow, his heart froze. The shadow stood motionless at the far end of the street, like a statue enveloped in darkness. Tom slowed his steps, trying to figure out who or what it might be. With each step Tom took, the shadow began to move slowly towards him, and whenever he stopped, the shadow also stopped. A feeling of anxiety grew, and Tom began to look for ways to retreat. But the only way home was through this street. The shadow continued to approach, and now Tom could distinguish that it was not just a play of light and shadow, but a real figure whose movements were strangely smooth and soft, like a dancer's. His heart pounded in sync with his quickening steps. Suddenly, the shadow moved with unnatural speed, and Tom decided to run. He ran without looking back until he reached a well-lit part of the neighborhood, where the streets were filled with people returning home from work. Tom's breathing was heavy, but he felt relief in the light and among people. Looking back, he saw that the shadow had disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. That evening, sitting at home, Tom tried to unravel what it was. He concluded it might have been one of the locals playing a scary game with him, or perhaps his imagination, stirred by the darkness and the autumn melancholy. But deep down, he felt he had encountered something inexplicable, something that had altered his perception of an ordinary evening walk. The day after the mysterious evening, Tom decided to share his experiences with his friend John, who was a local journalist interested in urban legends and unexplained phenomena. Meeting in a cozy cafe in the city center, Tom told him about his strange encounter. John listened intently, occasionally making notes in his notebook. After Tom finished, John suggested conducting a small investigation. They decided to return to the same street at the same time to see if they could encounter the shadow again or possibly unravel its origin. That same evening, Tom and John armed themselves with flashlights and a recorder to capture any unusual events. They walked slowly down the street, occasionally stopping and listening, hoping to catch something out of the ordinary. The street was quiet again, with only the occasional sounds of city nightlife in the distance. When they reached the spot where Tom had first noticed the shadow, John suggested splitting up to circle the block from two sides. Tom reluctantly agreed. They separated, agreeing to meet back at the same spot in 10 minutes. Tom walked slowly, cautiously looking around. He thought he heard footsteps behind him, but every time he turned around, he saw only an empty street. Finally, when he reached the meeting point, John was already there, visibly excited. He explained that he had met an old man walking his dog. The old man told him that many years ago, a strange murder had occurred on this street, and since then, locals sometimes saw a mysterious shadow wandering the street. John proposed writing an article about it, using Tom's story as a starting point to explore urban legends. Tom agreed, hoping that the publication would help others who might have encountered something similar and were seeking explanations. The next morning, sitting at breakfast, he felt a bit more at ease, knowing he was not alone in his experiences and that his story might help uncover the secrets of this gloomy street.